I think we're good to go. Hi, so my name is JRYussuf, and I am the host of Just JR, a YouTube channel. And today I am joined by my good friend Lizzy Lesbiana. She is the host of she is the host of the People's Lesbian podcast. And so today we are celebrating Lesbian Visibility Day, which happens every April 26th, and it has been happening since 2008. So I just kind of wanted to read a little bit more about Lesbian Visibility Day. So this is a day, is a haven for lesbians to feel recognized, safe, and visible in a world that still discriminates against them through inequality and in some countries with violence. One of the many points of acknowledging this day is to bring awareness to the stereotypes, judgment, and lack of representation that happens daily. Lesbians are here, everywhere. This movement exists so they feel included and accepted and are able to share their experiences with others, and so that they can remember that they are fighters in the same battle for the right to social justice.
Ow, I love it.
Do you want to tell us a bit about how you celebrate Lesbian Visibility Day, or tell us a bit about the People's Lesbian podcast?
Sure. So, when it comes to Lesbian Visibility Day, it's a great day, but for me, honestly, that's every day. I do my best to make sure that everyone knows that I am a lesbian. If they don't know, I try to make sure that they find out. So for me, it's just another day of the year, but I'm glad that it's a day that allows more of my community members to celebrate and just realize how great we are, and like in all our glory and all our goodness. Like, who doesn't love their own holiday, you know?
Yeah.
Who doesn't love their own holiday? So like you said, my name is Lizzy Lesbiana, and I'm the podcast host for the People's Lesbian, which is a podcast dedicated to the LGBTQ plus community. And in that podcast, I've basically made it a platform for community members to share how they're feeling, like what they're doing, and how they're making moves in this world. So if you're interested in that, if you want to join me in that, you can definitely always contact me on Instagram at Lizzy_Lesbiana or the People's Lesbian.
Cool. And your podcast, it's available on like all streaming platforms, right?
Yes, all the major ones. So as of right now, it's on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, Pandora, and there might be a few more in the upcoming weeks. Just got to work on that.
That's a lot. That's really good. That's dope. Okay. So yeah, I really liked our episode. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we played a drinking game, which was great. And while we played the drinking game, I talked about my hashtag bisexual men speak, and I also answered a lot of frequently asked questions that bisexuals get. So yeah, our episode was really dope. And I just want to read a bit more about some of the challenges that lesbians face before we get into the interview that we're going to do. Okay?
Of
Okay.
course, I'm ready.
Mhm. Okay, so this is titled Where the Problem Starts. So it's no secret the lesbian community is marginalized. Lesbians are known to have more mental health issues like depression, eating disorders, and anxiety than heterosexual women, due to all the emotional stress they experience as teenagers. It's bad enough going through puberty and experiencing a surge of hormones all at once, and also possibly living in a home that vocally endorses hate speech towards them. The mental exhaustion and effort that a young teenage woman has to exert to keep her secret a secret for fear of severe punishment or worse, like exile, can do a number on anyone, especially if they don't have a confidant. Lesbian Visibility Day is not only a celebration for lesbians, but trans, queer, different races, and nationalities coming together to be inspired by role models in various industries that are fighting for them. The disparaging unfairness keeps many lesbians from the respect and success that is warranted to them, despite having the talent and skill that they possess. So yeah, I it's horrible. You know what I mean? And I know that today is a lot about joy and about the celebration. And part of like resistance is also celebration and joy and things like that. And there's also like this underbelly of like some of the things that you face, you know, and being discriminated against when it comes to like hiring processes or by family or even sometimes friends. So that's important also to acknowledge on a day like today.
Right. Of course.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So the first question that I have for you, kind of switching gears into our interview portion of this, is how has your dating and sex life been affected by COVID? You know, I had to get right in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was basically trash before, right?
Mm-hmm.
And no, I want to say it was gold plated trash, right? Now it's just regular trash. Like
Oh,
I think like for me, COVID has definitely made it much harder to it made it much harder to even meet women. It made it harder to meet women in person, right? Of course, on the flip side, online things have definitely like surged. Like the apps is, I'm like, damn, where were you all at before? You know what I mean? But I don't have that same experience meeting someone now in person at an event or at a bar, or anything like that. So that definitely like just made it go downhill even more. I would say I've had more conversations like online and through these apps, but
are you an
for
app?
me, it's
Like, do you prefer apps or do you kind of prefer in person?
um. So the thing with me is like I do prefer the apps, honestly, and it was easier to just like move from the app and then to meet somebody in person, or be like, oh, I'm gonna go to this event or like this event. You know what I mean? Like it was like a little more tied in. But now the simple fact is that not everyone is comfortable like meeting up in person and this and that, and it's just like,
Have you been quarantining and like?
yeah, and it's like, have you been quarantining? Like,
Yeah, like right.
fuck. And so then that like also goes into like the sex life portion of it, right? Because now it's like I have to worry about like two different kind of tests now. So honestly, I just say forget the whole thing. So it's been a long time since I had any type of fun, and it's partially due to COVID.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah. So there's this company, and they're the Honey Playbox, and so,
Oh yeah.
oh, you know about them? Okay, great. So, so
Hmm.
yeah, they had me on a panel, and we just talked about like things that we learned about sex and sex toys and things like that. And
Hmm.
so, I know that a lot of my friends who are queer women, they have like kind of turned to toys throughout this pandemic, and also into like virtual sex, like so getting creative, things like that. So I don't know, maybe that's like an option to explore, but it is certainly a different world and a lot harder, I think, to just kind of adjust to how things are now. It's just another like sort of obstacle or challenge, something to navigate. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if I knew that the entire world was going to kind of end, I might have taken relationships a little more serious before. So I could have just had like my fuck person right now. But I
Oh
didn't
my.
know. So now I'm just stuck out here by myself. So it is what it is. So I'll know better for the next time the world ends. Yeah. Because we're still here. So I guess it's still ending. So
Let this be a lesson.
let this be a lesson. Like, damn, like I really should have sat on your face last year, but I didn't. And now look at me.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Huh. Um, no
Should have
bounds.
sat on the face. Sat on the face, and I didn't sit on her face. And now I'm just like, damn, I'll be on her Instagram like I should have just sat on her face. Like, whatever. It is what
Felt.
it is.
Um, have you always known about you being a lesbian?
Um, so I love this question. This is like a popular question. Like I wish I had an FAQ like on my fucking face, and then it would be like, "What are your questions?" But no, I did not always know that I was a lesbian, but I always knew that the attraction for men was never what I thought it was supposed to be or what it could be. And I say that in comparison to being younger and being around other teenage girls who were interested in men. And they would have these conversations and have these crushes, and they were so far and few in between for me. And like, let's say there's like a group of girls like gushing over this one boy, and they just was like, oh, he's so cute, he's so this, he's so that. And I would look at them, I'm like, damn, y'all look better than him. Like, the fuck? Like, but not to say that he was ugly, right? But I'm like, what was so special about him? It was kind of to me, it's like, you look better than him. Like, she looks better than him. Like, why are you guys so excited about him? Like, have y'all looked at like each other? Like,
yeah.
so
Right.
So I didn't always know, but there was definitely always something there that made me like question.
Yeah, I see. So you might not have always been like consciously conscious of it, but you kind of always was like, girls look better than guys, or like, I am paying attention to girls.
Way more, yeah. And then there was always one or two boys that would walk by like, huh, look at you. Okay, I'm proud of you. You're cute. Like, but it was very far and few in between. Like, yeah.
I hear you. Yeah, I completely hear you. I have another question. My question is, how do you feel about compulsory heterosexuality? And I feel like maybe I should define that a little bit, or
yeah. Just define it.
Just okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we live in a heteronormative world, and so the heteronormative world tells women that they should be with men, and that men should be with women. But specifically for women, it really tells women that being with men is the end all be all, especially romantically speaking. So this causes a lot of women to, first of all, not know that they are lesbians or even bisexual. And it also tells women to prioritize the relationships, romantic relationships with men over their friendships with women, over attractions to women. And so oftentimes people who are women think that they are straight when they're not straight, whether they are lesbians or bisexual. And then I know that specifically, like for a lot of bisexual women and pansexual women, many of them didn't even know that they were bi or interested in women, because of compulsory heterosexuality. So yeah, I just kind of want to know what some of your takes are.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely, agree. I think that some of the reactions that I've gotten when I fully committed to making it known that I was lesbian, right? Because and just let me say, like, that's everyone's personal choice. Like, you don't have to let anyone know shit. You don't have to let them know anything. But for me, I made it a choice to let people know, right? So even if people were like, oh, do you have a boyfriend? It'd be like, no, I'm a lesbian. Right? Like, just so it's like,
not just like, no, you'd be like, no, yeah. I'm a lesbian.
Right. Like, no, I'm a lesbian, so no, I don't have a boyfriend, and I did that because, like I said, I feel like lesbians aren't as visible. And also because I was being taught to ask that stupid ass question all the time, right? Because it was like, just because I'm a single woman, just because I'm 32 now, and it's like, just because I'm over 30, it's like, oh, do you have a boyfriend? When are you having kids? When, it all circles into one another. So then it was like, oh no, I'm a lesbian. It's like, oh, okay, so how would you have kids? It's still like, these things are just so like ingrained in us. So yes, I can definitely say that I've experienced it on so many levels. And even with my platform and with who I am, like, I still experience it to this day. Like, it's like, oh, you sure you still don't want a man? Like, are you sure you're not like bisexual? You could still have a boyfriend. Or it's like, oh, you could still be a lesbian, with a little man on the side or whatever. And I'm just like, what? Like, and then the people who tell me this are not the people I want on the side, regardless, right? So I'm like, even if I did, have a little more, fluidity in me, it wouldn't go your way. But yeah, so no, it's definitely something I've experienced, and it's something that I don't think goes away for women, and especially like as a more femme presenting woman, it never goes away. So yes, I experienced it, and I continue to experience it to this day.
That is really fucking annoying.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's really fucking annoying. It sounds really fucking annoying.
Yeah. I think, like, I'm at this point in my life where I think I mean, like, you know me, like, I love to laugh, because if I don't laugh, I'm going to cry. And I think that a lot of things are funny. So I know that it's more reflective of that person and less it's more reflective of that person, not me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of, it's like, oh, here's another one. Oh, here we go again. But I'm definitely done like being mad at this point. I like simply just don't care.
I see. I
Yeah.
see. I definitely feel you.
Yeah, I just don't give a fuck.
You're so funny.
Like, I'm like,
You're
okay, like, just don't care.
But no, I like that you brought in like age specifically because I definitely feel that. Like I feel like my experience just things are just changing so much as we get older.
Right.
Like people's reception and perception of us and we should be doing with our lives and stuff like that. And it's so fast, or I don't even know if the right word is fascinating, but yeah, being in your 30s and being a queer person is like for me is very different
Very
from being
different,
in your
right?
20s. Yeah, it's just
Because it's
everything
like
is
now, just because you're 30, it's like you're still supposed to live that same heteronormative life. Just, you know what I mean? It's the same thing. Like,
yeah.
so it's like everyone has like pre-assigned roles and stuff for you. So I'm just like, they're like, oh, it's like, what are you doing? I'm like, bitch, the same year I was doing 10 years ago with more money. Period. Like, same thing. Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a mother. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, it's at 22, I wasn't a mother. At 32, I'm not a mother, right? And that's my personal choice. And that was a choice I made. It has nothing to do with my sexuality, but it's just like everyone has these pre-assigned roles for you. Once you're
Right.
like, oh, once you're 30, you're this. Once you're 35, you're this. Once
Yeah.
you're 40, you shouldn't even be doing this. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing whatever I want to do. So I always have. So it's not going to change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're saying that it's also larger than your sexuality. I mean,
It is. Absolutely.
it is your sexuality, but it's also larger than that.
Yeah.
It's about like, these societal ideas that we have for where you should be, what you should be doing, and you're not following the rules. Whoa,
Right.
what's going
Yeah.
on over here? Mm-hmm.
So I get double pressure. I get the pressure of being a woman and not having children. I have pressure of being a gay woman and not having, you know what I mean? Like the pressure comes from all directions in a way. So it can definitely be frustrating, like
Mm-hmm.
for sure. But like, I don't care. So that
Yeah,
helps.
I really love that. I really love how like you're able to like turn this into it sounds like you were able to turn some of this into like a joke when people ask you like stupid questions, you're kind of like laughing at them or
Yeah.
you're able to like allow it to roll off your back and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's a really important skill to have. And I just kind of wonder how you develop this skill and also how, like, if you ever had internalized lesbophobia and if you did, how did you like overcome it? How did you have this switch, like turning your mind to like make things a joke?
Um, Wow, that's interesting. Oh my God. Like, you know how you've been on a job interview and they ask you this question like you didn't study for it? It's one of those. I've never been asked this question. So it's definitely interesting to me. But how did I stop caring? I think that I always had less care than most people did to start with, right? And um I can be a very black and white person. So there are things that I care a lot about and things that I just don't care about. And I think that unless you have a personal stake in my life, it doesn't really matter to me as much of like what you think, as long as of course you don't touch me or you don't violate me in any type of way, right? So I think to me it's like, being the person I am, like I'm not for everyone. I definitely have lost a few friends and I've gained a lot more friends, right? So I think that I'm just a person who, if you're not a certain person in my life or caliber in my life, I'm just not as concerned. And I'm kind of accustomed to people not liking me. So I was just like, okay. So I think I'm a little more surprised when people do. I'm so like people don't like me, and I'm like, okay, like. So then it's like, so then we can't talk because you don't like me. There's nothing I can do about that. Like I can't sit up here and be like, can you like me, please? Like, the fuck? Like I can't. There's nothing I can do. So now once you say you don't like me, I'm like, oh, I guess this conversation's over. Like I don't know. Like it's hard to explain. Like if you're not a certain type of caliber in my life, I just don't. I
Mm-hmm.
don't. Like I said, I think I'm more worried about obviously like I have to be mindful of like that people's dislike for me can obviously turn physical, right? Or it can turn verbal and things like that. So I'm a little more concerned about that. But as long as you don't like touch me or like abuse me in any way, I'm just not really concerned. I'm just not. I'd rather focus, you know, my energy on the people that do like me and doing work for the community. Like, it's always going to be somebody who doesn't like you, you know? So
that's facts. So on my YouTube channel, I really center wellness, and I also center or try to center queer self-esteem. Like, I want us to feel good about ourselves because of this, like, because we are queer, because we are Black. And so, yeah, I just kind of wanted to know of any wellness routines or wellness tips that you can give to us as a Black lesbian.
Yeah, sure. So for me, I find it really important to have time for yourself, right? And I know that sounds like, yeah, we all need time for ourselves, but no, really carve out time for yourself. So I make sure that no matter what, each day I take 10 to 15 minutes and I call it Liz time, right? So during Liz time, I don't answer any text, any phone calls, any messages, and I just do something I want to do for just 15 minutes that day. So let's just say it could be me taking a bath. It could be me reading a book. It could be me just staring at the ceiling, ignoring all my adult responsibilities. But I realized that I found that just taking 15 minutes a day just to have it for myself was like, has been really helpful. You know what I mean? Like, no distractions, not answering anyone. I'm not doing anything for anyone. If somebody's like, oh, Liz, can you do this for me? I can do it for you outside of these 15 minutes of my day, because that's Liz time. So for me, it was just like finding that little bit of time to center for myself. And cliche, yoga helps, you know? Like, yoga helps. Everyone knows that I'm like a fake yoga person. So I always try, but when I do it, I do feel better after. I don't always get to it. And, you know, like, I start, you remember the challenges I was telling you about? I still didn't start, but one day maybe I will. But yeah, I would say like having time for myself and like, you know, some kind of like movement definitely helps me.
Yeah, I hear you. I try to, that's usually the first thing I do every morning. Well, since the pandemic started. Yeah, like I do yoga every single morning, even if it's like 20 minutes on YouTube. That's usually what I use. I just pull up a YouTube video and I do like 20 minutes, and it makes a huge difference.
It does. Yes, it does.
You just talk about that time.
And at night too.
And at night, yeah.
At night too, if like, yeah, I've realized I've done it during the day, but I feel like either like for me, early morning or late at night, like doing some yoga, then like getting in the tub and like taking like that also, like, I find to be helpful.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. So we have arrived at our last question, and and the last question that I have for you is, what can people who are not lesbians do to support lesbians and make you more visible, or help with that?
And so I would always say, questioning someone's sexuality constantly is not helpful, right? So one way to be helpful in that is don't. If someone says that they're a lesbian, you don't now go say, oh, my cousin's boss is also a lesbian, or, you know, it doesn't, we don't necessarily need like a follow-up or a story behind it. I think it's just being supportive of how we identify and not questioning that label, or asking, like you said, like personally, like some personally invasive questions, like, oh, well, how do lesbians have sex? And it's just like, people still ask this shit, like, who, like, what the fuck? Like, so, you know, being helpful, like I always say too, sometimes it's not what you ask, it's what you don't ask. So some of those like personally invasive questions and questioning sexuality, I think is a great start to supporting the lesbians that you do know. And also like Lesbian Visibility Day, like text your lesbian, tell your lesbian, like, hey, happy, like stuff like this, like, oh, because like I said, it feels so great to be recognized. It feels so great to have, you know, our own holiday. I think, like I said, just acknowledging it, supporting it, and not questioning it is very helpful.
And like boosting your voices, listening to your podcast, The People's Lesbian.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah, do that.
Making sure to subscribe, right? Exactly. And and yeah, like I don't know, doing just a bit of research, like literally a Google search, like 101, some 101 things, you know. And what you said reminded me of how, for me, like when I first was in college and first started being around like other white people for the first time, um, it would be like, oh, do you know XYZ? And it would just be like another random Black person, and I'm like, no, I don't know them. Like, no, or like, no, I don't know them. I don't know your random
Yeah.
Black friend or whatever. Or or they would point out like maybe an obscure Black artist or just like some random Black artist. And in their mind, like the connecting factor is that we're both Black, so I must know them, or I must also like them, or I don't know, like bringing it up, like it's just kind of like if we weren't like already talking about something in specific, it's just kind of like, why are you telling me about like this other artist? The only thing that we have in common is the fact that we're Black, you know? So when you said like, oh yeah, when you say it, sometimes people are like, oh yeah, my aunt's a lesbian. Cool. Great. Great. So good.
Cool. I'm like, cool, now there's, a few more of us. Like, the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, what do you want me to say to that?
Like, oh, like maybe you two should talk. You and my aunt, maybe you should talk. Like, what? Why? For what?
But we low key be like, wait, let me see a picture first.
Maybe we could talk, but
let me see a picture first. But don't do that with everyone. Don't do that with everyone. You can do that. Don't do that to everyone. If you kind of know what I'm into, whatever. But like, you don't do that shit. Don't do it to a random lesbian. Like, oh, look at this person. Like, who the fuck are you? Who are you? Yeah. Who are they? Like, don't do that. Don't be that person. For sure.
Got you. But thank you so much. Can you plug like your Cash App, your Venmo, your Patreon, your whatever you want us?
So yes, you can definitely. So the best way to support me would be to go to the People's Lesbian, and like I said, it's on Apple, Google, Amazon, Pandora, and subscribe. You can also support me at my Patreon, which is the People's Lesbian. And I have two options. One is a $4 option and one's a $7 option. So super affordable, and anything that you can give would obviously be helpful. Then outside of that, you can also Cash at me at Lizzy Lesbiana. And that's the best way you can support me for now. And there'll be more ways, and I will post it on my Instagram, which is also Lizzy Lesbiana.
Cool. That sounds great. Thank you so much. And happy Lesbian Visibility Day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Until next time.
Next time.
Bye.
Bye.